Welcome back to my channel. I'm Beth Morgan, the Poor Valley Princess, and today I thought we would spend some time talking about our Appalachian dialect that we have here in the rural mountains where I live. I will start this out with a little story because a few years ago we decided to take a trip to New York, and I knew that when we got there people would probably have a hard time understanding us if we were not trying to enunciate and speak correctly, just because we have a pretty distinct accent and southern drawl. So before we left on this trip, I told my husband and my son and my sister and my brother-in-law and their son, I was like, we are going to have to use our most proper voices on this vacation. I said we need to try to enunciate and say every letter of every word so that people can understand what we are saying. And so we get on this trip, and we went to see the Yankees, and we had gotten back to our hotel late and thought we would order some Italian food from a local place there in Hoboken where we were staying. And the guy comes to deliver our food, which, by the way, was authentic Italian and was so good. I've never eaten pasta like that pasta. But that's beside the point. So the guy brings our food and he turns around to leave, and on his way out the door, and the whole time I've been really focusing on enunciating and trying to say my words correctly. And he says, "Oh, and by the way, I love your southern accent." And my family just died. They thought that was so funny because I was really trying hard to use a more proper voice. But our accent and our dialect is part of what we love about this rural region of Appalachia that we live in. And so I thought I would share a few things. My husband and I, Craig and I, last night, we sat down and we wrote down a few descriptive terms that we use around here that maybe you might not be familiar with. I know we have a lot of people moving into our area from California and Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Florida and New York, and they have joined our church and are in our Sunday school class, and I'm constantly being asked, what does that mean? And so hopefully maybe this video will help with a few of those phrases. So the first one, if someone asks you how you're doing, you might say, I'm fair to middling. Or you might say, I'm fat and sassy, which is my grandmother's favorite one to use, which are just, ways of saying I'm doing pretty good. Or you might hear somebody say if they're really tired, which we say tard, if they're tarred, they might say, I'm plumb wore out. Plumb would be like all the way. That's kind of an Appalachian way of saying full to the most. I'm plumb tuckered out. I'm very tired is what that means. Another one, you might hear somebody say, I'm so scared. I'm just scared. Scared is, ooh, there's a bee. Ooh, there's a bee. There's a bee. Scared is a word that means scared. So if you hear somebody, ooh, that scared me, they mean they're scared. They're scared. We live in a holler, we live up in a holler, which in the Appalachian Mountains where we live, if you have two mountains that come together and it forms a little V and you have that valley, well, deep down back in that valley, that's your holler. You live in a holler. It's a little place just off to itself. How about I reckon? I reckon means okay. In some instances, it might mean yes. It might mean I understand. So I reckon kind of depends on the way it's being used. So you have to kind of take in your whole conversation and use context clues to understand what I reckon. But for the most part, it's an affirmative or a yes answer, or I know. Oh, here's a good one. You may not have heard this. His'n or hern. His'n, of course, would be it belongs to him. Hern It belongs to her. Or how about this one? Yearnses. Yearnses, that would be, yearn is kind of you all or all of them. And then saying yearnses means belonging to all of them. Okay, so his'n, hern, and yearnses. Yeah, I know. How about this? You might put on your breeches. Breeches is a word for pants. A lot of times it means blue jeans. So get your breeches on if you're going to go weed eat the yard. Okay, you can put your breeches on, that's your pants. Scooch. Scooch over. Scooch over a little bit. To scooch over means to scoot over. To scoot, to scooch. Scooch over means to scoot over. I'll share a couple more. If you are not feeling well, you might be feeling puny or poorly. Or if you hear someone say, oh, he looked plumb puny, that means they thought he was looking sickly. Maybe pale, maybe green around the gills, as we say. So that's one. Here's one that my grandmother would say, Beth, you're getting a little flashy. Fleshy, flashy. That meant I was putting on a little too much weight, in her opinion, and she thought I was getting a little plump. So, fleshy, fleshy, a little fleshy. You might hear someone say for distance, it's a fur piece. That means you're going to have to go about a mile or more, probably. It's a fur piece. You're going a ways. That's a distance. Pert nigh. That's just a easy way of saying almost. He pert nigh tore that whole house down. Almost. Pert nigh means almost. How about over? Over or over there. Over is a directional saying, and that just means over there. So, I hope you've enjoyed listening to a few Appalachian phrases today, and I will share more with you another day if this is something that you like, or if you've ever heard any of these phrases, or if you use these phrases or words in your area, I'd love to hear about it. Why don't you comment below and maybe even leave where you live, especially if you live in a different part of Appalachia than I live. I'd love to hear about it. So thank you for joining me today. Again, I'm Beth Morgan, the Poor Valley Princess, and I would love it if you would like and subscribe. We will share more Living with Appalachia tales with you in the future. Thanks again. See you next time. One thing I can say about our language here in rural Appalachia is it has been a very protected language just because of the nature of the area in which we live. Internet did not come to our homes here in rural Appalachia until after 2020. So, we didn't have access to the internet in our homes. And then we also did not really have a lot of diversity in our communities. It mainly has been people who have just lived here for generations, especially the valley where I live. I mean, I could tell you every person in every home up and down this valley, and I was probably kin related to most of them as well until the last few years. And in the last few years, as we've had some deaths and some people move off, we've had a lot of people buy into our valley from other regions in the United States. And of course, they are bringing their dialects with them, which will change the community in which I live. But until the last few years, we really have lived in quite a little bubble here in my little part of Appalachia. But I can see that that is changing with internet coming into homes, children not hearing only their community that they live in, but hearing other sounds outside of that, I can see that it's definitely going to change in the next 10 years. But it will not change on this video because I am preserving this little part of Appalachia for our future generations to hear and see. And so I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Here's one more. One that I'm a school teacher. My husband's grandmother was a school teacher. And one of the phrases that my husband likes to use that he heard in his family growing up was that it's time to take up books. That means it's time to go to school. It's school time. It's time to take up books. That's a good one. Or here's another one. I like this one. If something is a little out of place or off to the side or crooked, you might say it's side-goggling. It's side-goggling. I love that one. That's a great one. It's a great word. I loved it. I love the way that word just rolls off the tongue. Side-goggling. I hope you've enjoyed these today. I know I sure have. Come back and join me again another day and we'll talk about some more Appalachian phrases.